When a man is obsessed with you but pretending he's not, the signs don't disappear. They just become quiet, subtle, strategic. See, some men don't distance themselves because they don't care. They distance themselves because they care too much, and that scares them. Pride steps in. Ego steps in. Fear of rejection steps in. And instead of leaning in, they lean back, acting nonchalant, acting busy, acting like you're just cool. But obsession has a language. And if you pay attention, it speaks loudly. When a man is trying hard not to show you how much he wants you, his behavior starts contradicting his words. He'll say one thing, but his actions will whisper the truth. Here are 4 behaviors you need to notice. If he truly didn't care, he would disappear. Let that sink in before you make excuses for his behavior. A man who is genuinely uninterested does not hover around your life. He doesn't check your stories within minutes. He doesn't randomly pop up with casual messages. He doesn't accidentally like old photos. He doesn't find subtle reasons to remain present. When a man is done, he exits. Clean, clear, quiet. But when he's obsessed to pretending he's not, he doesn't leave. He lingers. And that lingering is not confusion. It's attachment wrapped in pride. You'll notice he never fully detaches. He may slow down his communication, but he doesn't vanish. He may act busy, but somehow he still has time to see what you're doing. He might not initiate deep conversations, but he keeps the door slightly open. That's intentional. He wants proximity without vulnerability. See, obsession doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks controlled, calculated, measured. He's trying to manage how much of himself he reveals. He doesn't want to look too eager. He doesn't want to feel exposed. He doesn't want to give you the upper hand by admitting how much he thinks about you. So instead of leaning in fully, he positions himself close enough to watch. Why? Because distance feels safer than rejection. A man who is emotionally invested but afraid will choose observation over expression. He would rather monitor your life from the sidelines than risk telling you directly how much you matter to him. That way, if something shifts, he can protect his ego. He can say, I wasn't even that serious anyway, but his behavior will always tell on him. Pay attention to patterns, not words. If he keeps reappearing, that's not accidental. If every time you start to move forward, he resurfaces with a "Hey stranger" text, that's not coincidence. If he disappears just long enough for you to regain independence and then pops back in the moment you seem happy, that's emotional attachment struggling against pride. Women often misread this as mixed signals, but mixed signals usually mean one thing: internal conflict. He wants access to you, but he doesn't want to surrender control. He wants your presence, but he doesn't want to appear dependent. He wants to know he still matters to you, but he refuses to fully show how much you matter to him. And here's where you have to be strong. Do not chase clarity from a man who is afraid to be clear. If he is hovering, let him hover. If he is watching, let him watch. You do not need to over-explain yourself to make him comfortable. You do not need to perform consistency just because he's inconsistent. You simply observe, because a man who doesn't care does not monitor. If he remembers what you posted, if he references things you casually mention, if he brings up events from your life that he technically had no reason to track, that's attention, and attention is investment. Think about it logically. People do not spend mental energy where there is no emotional return. Obsession shows up in small ways before it ever becomes bold. It shows up in timing. It shows up in presence. It shows up in how quickly he reacts when he feels like he's losing access. And here's the emotional truth that you must understand. Sometimes he stays around because he is afraid that if he lets go completely, someone else will step in. He may not be ready to fully claim you, but he is not ready to lose you either. That in-between space is uncomfortable for him and for you, but do not confuse his fear with your responsibility. It is not your job to make him brave. It is not your job to decode every subtle move. Your power is in your stability, your calm, your consistency with yourself. When you remain centered, his hovering becomes clearer. You stop romanticizing breadcrumbs. You stop overanalyzing response times. Instead, you watch the bigger picture. Is he gone or is he orbiting? A man who is pretending not to care will always keep one foot in the door. He might not plan the future with you. He might not openly express his feelings, but he will not let the connection fully dissolve. That thread remains intact because emotionally, he is not detached. And the key lesson for you is this: do not reward half presence with full access. If he wants to stay around, he can stay, but he doesn't get unlimited emotional benefits while pretending to be indifferent. Your energy is valuable. Your time is valuable. Your availability is valuable. When you stop overextending yourself, something interesting happens. If he's truly obsessed, he will feel the shift. He will notice the difference. He will either step forward with more clarity, or he will reveal that his hovering was just comfort, not commitment. Either way, you win, because the moment you stop confusing proximity with intention is the moment you reclaim your emotional power. Remember this: presence without effort is observation. Presence with consistency is interest. Presence with courage is intention. If he's still around, there's a reason. Just make sure that while he's figuring himself out, you're not shrinking yourself down to keep him comfortable. Let him hover if he chooses. But you continue to rise. When another man enters the picture, watch how he shifts. You won't always see fireworks. You won't always see dramatic confrontations or bold declarations. In fact, if he's pretending he's not obsessed, he'll try even harder to look calm, unbothered, relaxed. He might even joke about it. He might say, "Oh, that's your friend," with a smirk that feels playful but carries weight. But energy never lies. A man who is emotionally invested, even secretly, does not respond to competition with indifference. He responds with adjustment. You'll notice subtle changes first. He becomes slightly more attentive. His replies come faster. He initiates conversations he normally wouldn't. He suddenly has time. He suddenly has opinions. He suddenly wants to know details. Not because he's curious, because he feels threatened. Obsession doesn't like competition. It doesn't like uncertainty. And it definitely doesn't like the idea of losing access to what it secretly values. See, when a man is pretending not to care, he operates comfortably as long as he believes you're still emotionally available. As long as he assumes you're still focused on him. As long as he feels secure in the idea that no one else is seriously stepping into his space. But the moment another man appears, even as a possibility, his internal balance shifts. Now it's not about pride anymore. It's about possession. And here's what you need to understand. Sometimes a man doesn't fully realize how much he wants you until he feels the risk of losing you. That's not romantic. That's human psychology. We value what feels scarce. We fight for what feels contested. We protect what feels like it might be taken. So when he sees another man making you laugh, complimenting you, showing interest, something activates inside him. He may not admit it. He may not verbalize it, but he feels it. You'll see it in his behavior. He may start dressing better, posting more, talking about his accomplishments more often, highlighting his value in subtle ways. That's not random. That's positioning. He's re-entering the arena. He might ask casual questions like, "So what's his deal?" in a tone that pretends to be neutral. He might tease you about having fans. He might suddenly want to spend more time with you when he previously acted unavailable. That's not coincidence. That's competition waking him up. And here's where many women get confused. When he steps up only after feeling threatened, you might think maybe he just needed time, or maybe now he realizes what he has. But pause. If it takes the presence of another man to activate his effort, then understand this clearly. He was never confused about your value. He was comfortable. Comfort can look like indifference. He was secure in the idea that you weren't going anywhere, that you were emotionally accessible without him having to fully show up, that he can maintain his cool, detached posture without consequences. Competition removes comfort. Suddenly, he has to decide whether he's willing to risk losing you for the sake of ego. Suddenly, pretending not to care becomes dangerous. Suddenly, silence is no longer safe, and that's when his behavior starts contradicting his image. He may not confess feelings directly, but his actions intensify. He texts more. He calls more. He suggests plans. He shows effort that was previously too much for him. Why? Because now there's something to lose. And here's the empowering truth for you: never shrink yourself to protect a man's ego. If your beauty, your intelligence, your presence attracts attention from others, that is not something to minimize. That is confirmation of your value. If that attention makes him uncomfortable, that discomfort is not your burden to fix. It is his responsibility to rise, not your responsibility to dim. A man who is truly secure and serious will not need competition to show consistency. He won't wait until another man steps in to start acting like he cares. He will move with intention from the beginning. But a man who is obsessed and pretending, he needs pressure to reveal himself. Competition exposes hidden investment. It strips away the illusion of indifference. It forces clarity, because now he must choose, remain distant and risk losing you, or step forward and risk vulnerability. And vulnerability is what he was avoiding all along. So when you notice him becoming more attentive the moment someone else shows interest, don't ignore that shift. Study it, not emotionally, but strategically. Is his effort consistent or temporary? Is he stepping up because he genuinely wants to build something or because he doesn't want to lose control? There's a difference. Temporary competition-driven effort fades once the threat disappears. Genuine realization leads to sustained change. Your power lies in observing without reacting impulsively. You don't need to use jealousy as a weapon. You don't need to perform to trigger him. Simply continue living in your value. Continue being magnetic. Continue being social, open, confident. If he's obsessed, he will feel it. And if he's serious, he will rise to meet it. But never forget this. You are not a trophy to be defended only when someone else tries to claim you. You are a woman deserving of consistent, proactive love, not reactive possession. Competition may reveal his feelings, but consistency reveals his character. Watch both. A man who's pretending not to care does not remember the smallest details about your life. He doesn't remember the little things you casually mention, the things that matter only to you. He doesn't notice when you change your hairstyle, or the new book you've been reading, or the way your eyes light up when you talk about something you love. When someone is truly indifferent, these details pass by unnoticed, lost in the noise of their own lives. But a man who is obsessed, even if he pretends he isn't, remembers. He pays attention in ways that are quiet, almost invisible, but impossible to ignore when you start noticing the patterns. He stores these details not because he wants to impress you or because he has a calculated plan, but because emotionally you are already important to him. He listens. He observes. He notices the subtleties that make you who you are, the things that most people wouldn't bother with. And this is where the truth lies. Obsession shows up in the smallest of details. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers almost gently into the fabric of your life. He might reference something you mentioned weeks ago as if it just happened yesterday. He might bring up a detail in a casual conversation that shows he's been paying attention even when you thought he wasn't listening. For example, if you casually mention a favorite coffee order in passing, and later he surprises you by remembering it, that's not coincidence. If he recalls an offhand comment about a meeting, a presentation, or even a moment of frustration, that is a sign of mental and emotional investment. People do not expend mental energy on things that do not matter to them. The mind is selective. It preserves what it values, and it discards what it doesn't. If he remembers, he values. And that value may be hidden behind a mask of nonchalance, but it is present, steady, and significant. You might not see it immediately because he is controlling how much of himself he reveals. He doesn't want to appear too invested because that would make him vulnerable. Pride, fear of rejection, past experiences, these all play a role in shaping how he expresses himself. So instead of overtly showing interest, he lets his attention speak for him. While his words may be sparse, his memory and awareness are constant. He is present even in subtle ways. He notices the way your mood shifts. He picks up on your preferences. He knows the little things that make you happy or uncomfortable. He remembers them not because he is trying to manipulate you, but because he is emotionally attuned to you. This attention manifests in quiet patterns. He may send you something related to a hobby you mentioned months ago. He may ask about a friend you casually talked about. He may comment on a detail in your life that others would not remember. These moments are not accidents. They are breadcrumbs of his subconscious attachment. You don't need to overanalyze them, but you do need to observe them with clarity. They reveal a depth of care that he is not ready to declare outright. A man who is pretending not to care will rarely make such investments. Indifference does not remember. Indifference does not notice. Indifference does not track the small details that make someone unique. Obsession does. And here is the crucial insight. This kind of attention is a form of emotional currency. It is a silent declaration of interest and investment. It shows that even if he doesn't admit his feelings, he is engaged on a deeper level. He is internalizing your life and making it a part of his mental landscape. He is storing your joys, your frustrations, your quirks, and your pattern. He is mapping out the essence of who you are without even realizing it. And this is where you gain clarity if you choose to see it. You begin to recognize the difference between someone who is truly indifferent and someone who is quietly invested. However, it's important to recognize that remembering details does not necessarily equate to commitment. A man may notice everything but still struggle to express his feelings openly. He may observe and internalize, but he may hesitate to act due to fear, pride, or insecurity. That's why observing these patterns is only part of understanding his behavior. You must also watch how he balances this attention with action. If he remembers the details but never acts on them, you know that his attachment is restrained by something internal. His feelings exist, but his ego or fear prevents him from fully engaging. And that's okay. It's not your responsibility to fix it. Your role is to recognize it, understand it, and decide what that means for you. At the same time, these small acts of remembrance can be incredibly revealing. They indicate that he is invested emotionally in a way that often bypasses logic. He doesn't need to claim it verbally because his memory does it for him. He doesn't need to announce it because his attention already communicates it. And this is where emotional intelligence comes into play. You as a woman must learn to read between the lines. You must learn to see the investment that is quiet, subtle, and often unspoken. That awareness allows you to distinguish between someone who truly cares but is hesitant and someone who genuinely doesn't care. The way he remembers small details also reflects his subconscious desire to connect with you. He may not be able to express it directly, but internally he is forming a mental map of your world. He is learning your rhythms, your patterns, and your preferences. He notices the things that make you light up, and he notices the things that make you withdraw. This awareness is not something casual acquaintances achieve. It is a level of attention reserved for people who are emotionally invested, even if that investment is masked by pretense. So when you notice him recalling small details, cherish it for what it is. Observe it as evidence of his subconscious care. Recognize that these are signals of emotional engagement, not manipulation. People who are indifferent don't invest in the minutiae of someone else's life. People who are obsessed, even while pretending not to be, do. They notice, they remember, and they store these details in ways that may later guide their actions or reveal their true feelings over time. And finally, understand that this kind of behavior is a window into his heart. If he remembers the smallest things about you, he values you. If he internalizes details without being asked, he cares. If he tracks subtle aspects of your life while pretending to remain detached, he is emotionally invested even when his ego tells him to hide it. And that awareness gives you power. It allows you to navigate the relationship with clarity, recognizing the quiet signals that others might miss, understanding the depth of his attachment even in the absence of grand declarations, and maintaining your emotional balance while he sorts out his own. A man who remembers the little things is a man who cares. Obsession shows up in the details, not always in the loud, dramatic gestures. And when you learn to see it, to interpret it wisely, you gain insight into his heart, into his intentions, and into the emotional truth behind his actions. You learn to differentiate between indifference and hidden attachment, between casual presence and deep investment, and most importantly, between a man who values you quietly and one who doesn't. If you want, I can now expand Keynote 4 into 700 words in the same emotionally intelligent, educational style, so your content will be ready for a complete YouTube script or motivational article. Do you want me to do that next? A man who is obsessed but pretending he's not will test you, and he will do it in ways so subtle that most women don't even realize it at first. It doesn't look like an outright challenge or confrontation. It isn't obvious. In fact, it can feel confusing or even frustrating. He might pull back slightly, delaying messages just to see if you notice. He might act busier than usual, giving the impression that he's preoccupied with work or other obligations. He might appear indifferent to your stories, your jokes, or your successes, all while secretly gauging your reactions. These behaviors are not random. They are intentional. They are the ways in which he measures your interest without openly asking for reassurance, because admitting that he wants to know would make him vulnerable. Pretending not to care is a shield, and testing you is a strategy to protect that shield while still feeling connected. You might catch yourself thinking, why would he do this? Doesn't he already know how I feel? The truth is, he already knows. He already understands your value, your personality, and the connection you share. But when a man is obsessed, ego and fear often create a tension between desire and expression. He wants to feel that you are choosing him voluntarily, that your attention is given freely rather than demanded. He wants reassurance, but he wants it indirectly. That's why he tests you. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his internal struggle. He wants to gauge your level of investment without admitting his own vulnerability. These tests can take many forms, and they are usually small but consistent. He might delay responding to your text to see if you follow up, to see if you chase him or maintain your composure. He might show up late to plans or act non-committal about schedules just to observe how you handle unpredictability. He might offer minimal effort initially, only to increase that effort in small increments if he senses that you won't compromise your standards or chase him unnecessarily. Each of these actions is a subtle probe, a way to measure your confidence, your self-respect, and your emotional steadiness. The underlying question he is asking, without saying a word, is, will she value herself enough to let me come to her? Or will she scramble for my attention? The critical thing for you to understand is that his tests are about him, not about you. They are not a judgment of your worth, your intelligence, or your emotional capacity. They are a reflection of his struggle with vulnerability and control. When a man is obsessed but hiding it, he is caught in a battle with his own pride. Admitting he wants you fully, openly, and without gains feels risky. Pretending indifference and testing you feels safer. He is trying to protect himself from the possibility of rejection while still keeping you within reach. Recognizing this truth is empowering because it allows you to respond with clarity and composure rather than anxiety or overreaction. Your response to his testing is where your power lies. When he pulls back or delays, you do not need to chase. When he acts distracted or unavailable, you do not need to panic. When he creates distance to measure your reaction, you maintain your poise and confidence. These moments are not opportunities for overcompensation. They are opportunities to demonstrate that your emotional world is stable, independent, and centered. By responding with calm consistency rather than urgency, you send a silent but powerful message. Your attention and energy are not commodities to be tested or manipulated. You are secure yourself, and that security is magnetic. It forces him to confront his own hesitations and reevaluate his behavior. If he is genuinely obsessed, he will be drawn to that strength and clarity. If he is not, the pattern becomes obvious, and you are no longer wasting emotional energy where it is not reciprocated. Another key aspect of these tests is that they often reveal hidden patterns of emotional attachment. He may pretend not to notice, but his reactions to your behavior are telling. If he becomes more attentive when he senses you are independent or emotionally self-sufficient, that is a sign of underlying obsession. If he suddenly increases his effort when you hold your boundaries firmly, that is another indicator that he values your stability and your self-respect. On the other hand, if he reacts only to emotional manipulation, fear, or anxiety, that is a warning sign that his attachment may be reactive rather than genuine. Observing these patterns without judgment allows you to distinguish between authentic investment and performative attention. Testing is also a measure of his emotional literacy. Men who are obsessed but hiding it are often navigating uncharted territory within themselves. They are learning how to balance desire, pride, and vulnerability. By testing you, they gather information not just about you, but about how safe they feel emotionally to express themselves. Your consistency, your calm, and your refusal to overextend in response to these tests serve as a mirror for him. They show him that vulnerability does not have to lead to rejection, that you can maintain your dignity while still valuing him. And that genuine connection is built on mutual respect rather than manipulation or games. It is essential to remember that his tests are ultimately a measure of intention. They reveal what he is willing to do to maintain access to you, and they expose the depth of his investment when he believes he might lose it. Each subtle probe, every delayed text, Every moment of pretense, every act of understated observation is a signal. Taken together, these signals paint a picture of a man who is emotionally attached, even if he cannot admit it directly. Recognizing and interpreting these signals allows you to engage with them wisely. You do not have to chase, beg, or manipulate. You simply maintain your integrity, observe carefully, and respond thoughtfully. In doing so, you allow the truth of his feelings to emerge naturally. Ultimately, a man who is obsessed but pretending he's not will reveal himself through patterns over time. The tests, the subtle distancing, the delayed reactions, they are temporary. Consistency, composure, and self-respect in response to these behaviors will either draw him forward into clarity or show you that his attachment was never authentic. The power is yours because you control your reactions, your boundaries, and your emotional energy. By maintaining these, you force the situation into truth rather than pretense. If he truly wants you, these tests become redundant and his attention aligns with his feeling. If he does not, the pattern becomes clear and you are free to invest your time and energy elsewhere. A man who tests you is often a man who is conflicted, caught between desire and fear. Observing his behavior without succumbing to manipulation allows you to understand his heart without compromising your own. You recognize that his obsession is real, even if hidden, and that your response matters not only for him, but for your own emotional clarity and self-respect. In the end, testing is not a challenge for you to overcome. It is a mirror, reflecting both his internal struggle and the strength of your boundaries. By holding firm, you allow him to confront his truth while protecting your own, and that is the most empowering position a woman can hold in any relationship.